This episode of the Star Wars Battlefront podcast is brought to you by Rage Start, our new podcast network dedicated to completely video game podcasts. Our three newest shows are Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox Update. Check those out in the description below.
Pick your class and
earn your battle points.
Because it's time for the Star Wars Battlefront podcast. Welcome to episode 136 of the Star Wars Battlefront podcast. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, joined by my brother and co-host, Sam Goodwin.
Hello there.
In this episode, we have the newest news on the newest season. So we'll be talking about the newest Han Solo season and how its content release will work.
Let's get started.
Buckle up. Han Solo season is coming, arriving in style on May 16th. Han Solo, the rebellion general, the smuggler. Wasn't he a war hero? He's played the scoundrel and the hero. And in Star Wars Battlefront 2, the Han Solo season, you'll get to experience a little bit of both. You in? The fun begins on May 16th with a trip back to the original trilogy before jumping into new content for June, inspired by the forthcoming Solo: A Star Wars Story film. But more on that later. First, let's talk about what you'll be able to play this month. Revisit Jabba's Palace. What happens when you don't pay a hunt on time? You end up as an accent piece in his throne room. A lesson Han Solo learned the hard way. This month, fans of Star Wars Battlefront can revisit Jabba's Palace in Star Wars Battlefront 2 as part of the Han Solo season. Available in Blast, Hero Showdown, or Heroes vs. Villains, players will be able to iron out their differences in the twists and turns of Jabba's abode. Mentioned in that is the new mode, Hero Showdown. Han Solo's rarely seen without the mighty Chewbacca at his side, and in Hero Showdown, a new round-based elimination mode in the Han Solo season, you'll be able to take your favorite pairings into 2-on-2 heroes versus villains. Han Solo and Chewbacca versus Boba Fett and Bossk, Yoda and Rey versus Vader and Captain Phasma. That's up to you, but once a round is won, you must pick another duo for the next round. Bring out your wits and tactics for this one. Dress for the job. We figure if we're sending you all the way to Tatooine, you might as well be able to dress for the part. Don new appearances, available for credits or crystals, inspired by the opening acts of Star Wars Return of the Jedi. With Lando Calrissian looking scruffy in his skiff guard disguise and Leia Organa donning the bounty hunter Bush's gear, featuring brand new voiceover. And finally, refine your piloting skills in Starfighter Custom Arcade. No need to fly casual. You've asked for it, and we're excited to add Starfighter Custom Arcade to Star Wars Battlefront 2. You'll be able to hone your skills in the cockpit with starfighters from all eras, whether you're aiming to turn Rebellion X-Wings into Stardust with your TIE, or hop into the Millennium Falcon to fly circles around enemy starfighters. We'll have more to share in June after this month's release of Solo: A Star Wars Story. For more details on what Star Wars Battlefront 2 the Han Solo season includes this month, check out the latest community transmission. That's what we'll be doing next.
Incoming transmission! Incoming transmission!
We're back for another community transmission, and this time we're here to talk Season 2. It's been a busy few weeks at DICE HQ, and it only feels like yesterday that we were rolling out the progression update. With the release of Night on Endor update, we found ourselves in our regular cadence of content releases. In the very first community transmission, we talked a little bit about our methodology behind updates, and how some would be similar to Night on Endor, and others would be classified as seasons. As part of our ongoing commitment to opening our lines of communication, today we're going to talk a little bit about Season 2. Did we mention it's coming out next week on May 16th? The Han Solo season will be spread across 2 months, and we've got a lot of content to cover, so let's dive in. Coming in May, Hero Showdown, which is the new mode. Alongside the Han Solo season will be the release of a brand new game mode. Hero Showdown is similar to the much-loved Heroes vs. Villains game mode, but with a brand new rule set. In this 2v2 game mode, players will begin the match by picking their heroes. Should you be defeated, you must put all your hope into your teammate and wait until the round is over. If your team is successful and wins the round, you are unable to use the heroes that you previously used. However, if your team loses the round, you're free to pick any available hero, including the ones you just used. It's a best out of 5 situation, so the first to win 3 rounds will claim victory. Think carefully about your pick. Strategy is everything in this mode.
So, Hero Showdown. Definitely a competitive game mode for Battlefront 2. Probably going to be the one that, if there are tournaments around, this is going to be the game mode.
Definitely.
Probably going to be the game mode to where you're going to want a partner at a party to properly win.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how randomly matched will be. like random picked teammates will be.
Also excited to see like the synergy between heroes and villains. Like there's obviously going to be the best two together, which will be, it's going to be interesting to find out which is the best with the counterpart villain / hero.
Well, we did this with hashtag shout out to our cousins Bo and Brent. We did that with them in Battlefront 2015. We both got in matches, and then on Heroes versus Villains, we teamed up. So I'd be Han and he'd be Lando, and we'd be Hondo. Hashtag Hondo for life. But we did kind of the same thing where we would be sticking together and being our own team inside of just the regular team.
Yeah, so what we do is we stick together and let our other teammates die and try to clutch it out.
Yeah, this is taking that on a whole different level. So this is 2v2 best out of 5. I think this is going to be really fun.
Yeah, so probably going to see a lightsaber as one of the heroes and villains, and then some kind of long range kind of help from a distance.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the dream team.
Probably like Darth Vader and Captain Phasma is one of, they said in the update list or the transmission, one of those.
It was the post on the blog.
That's actually could be a strong team. Yeah, so I'm just excited to see what kind of pairings are going to be. I'm probably going to have to be picked with random teammates though online.
Yeah. What we need to do is have another, maybe like on a Sunday, just have a time to just hang out with you, the listener, and play some of this game mode. I think that'll be super fun. So if you're interested in that, let us know on Twitter. It's at Swbp Podcast, or on email. That's battlefrontpodcast@gmail.com. I think this is a game mode that we need, because this is the first new game mode to focus on heroes since the launch of the game.
Yeah, but this is another case that they're just kind of re-pitching a game mode that's already there, because it's just like a
remix,
just like a reskin of Heroes versus Villains,
but with a different objective.
Yeah,
and it's more in the style of original Battlefront 2015.
More like original Heroes versus Villains,
because you have that 5-round system,
and also you're not just focusing one target.
You're trying to get rid of the team completely, instead of what we've got in Battlefront 2, which is a lot like Hero Blast, where you have one pick and you have to destroy that pick to get points. I look forward to seeing how this affects the community, and like if this will be a popular game mode. I've stopped playing a lot of Heroes versus Villains because of the janky stun lock systems.
Yeah,
I hate that so much. Every single time, like if you get hit and it's close range, you're going to get hit again, and it's basically you're stun locked and you can't do anything. You don't even have a chance to get away.
Kind of like the original Battlefront 2 had a huge problem with that. Like if you're knocked on the ground, you're basically dead. Most of the pandemic games in that case had that kind of thing, and I know they're reducing it and all that, but they just need to kind of remove it.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a certain move, like a force push.
It's just super annoying. So I'll be interested. I'll be looking forward to seeing how that affects the game mode, and if people will actually enjoy the game mode. The next thing coming that we mentioned before is Starfighter Custom Arcade. Starfighter Custom Arcade is where you'll be able to become acquainted with all the starfighters in the game. Take on AI and learn skills that will serve you well when you venture into Starfighter Assault and take on some of the best pilots in the galaxy. We know that this is something a lot of our community have been requesting, so we're incredibly excited to confirm that it'll be available as soon as Season 2 starts on May 16th. Jabba's Palace, located in the Dune Sea on Tatooine, the sandblasted metal and stone structure strikes fear into anyone that finds themselves on the wrong side of Jabba the Hutt. Jabba's Palace will be arriving in Star Wars Battlefront 2 and will be available in both Heroes vs. Villains Blast and Arcade. What do you think of this, Sam?
Yeah, onto the arcade, the Starfighter one. I mean, that should have been at the game from the start, so it's nice that they're adding it. Just kind of trying to complete the arcade whole atmosphere.
Yeah, flesh it out a bit.
Yeah. I mean, it'll give me a chance to kind of familiarize myself with the system, because I'm still not fully comfortable with that. Also, I've barely tried any of the hero ships and villain ships, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then we got the much controversial Jabba the Hutt Palace.
Jabba's Palace map. This whole release has fans, and I'm putting myself in the disappointment category as well. I don't like how we're still in the dark. Like, we know this content, but content is very much stuff we've already had. If you've played Battlefront 2015, you know this map. This looks exactly the same.
Yeah, sure, it's an awesome map, but
yeah,
it should have been
I love
at the
the
game
map
from launch, so it's not like wasting the content that could have been new with something old.
The biggest thing, like, I'm fine with this content. The biggest thing, and we'll get into this a little bit later, is the lack of a roadmap. I would just like to see, hey, part 2 is going to be coming out in June. We're going to get 2 heroes, and we're going to get a map, and we're going to get a game mode. We don't know anything. We just know there's going to be new content based around the movie.
So basically what happens is that before like a week before it happens is when they give you all the content. You need to be having it in advance. I mean, sure, they said they basically announce announcements.
Yeah. And I did get a response on a couple responses on Twitter about this. I really like this theory is that they're not done, so they don't even know the content that's coming, which I could believe, which is why it's coming out in June instead of like every other previous movie tie-in DLC.
Yeah,
where it came out
before, which is kind of disheartening that they don't know exactly the content that they want to release ahead of time.
And I called it last week. I said, since it's the Han Solo season, they can go back and just do things that's about Han Solo and not necessarily the movie. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. I knew they were good. I thought they would release something new rather than getting the Jabba's Palace out, which I do enjoy the map. It was one of my favorites in the previous game.
Mm-hmm.
But we could have got something new. If I want to go to the Jabba's Palace, I can go to the last game.
Yeah, like you're saying, I love that map. Like, it's one of my favorite maps in Battlefront 2015. But again, it feels kind of like, oh, we'll poop out this content so we can have some time to continue working on it,
and to buy themselves time.
Yeah, that's what this feels like.
But I do think it works well with the new Hero Showdown as a map, and it's also going to add smaller game modes, more maps, which they need in the game.
Yeah, this whole announcement, and I hate to say it, but I'm disappointed with the lineup. I really wished we had a goal, especially since this whole season is something that Battlefront fans as a community, as those hardcore gamers, didn't want. Across the board, people wanted the prequel season. So if they were going to bring out a Han Solo season, I would have hoped they would have known that the community would react the way it did, which is disappointment and anger at why they did this. And we still don't know anything about part 2, which is what makes me so upset. Like, nothing about part 2.
Yeah, part 2 is the thing that we're looking forward to the most.
Yeah.
It's going to add new content, new heroes and villains.
Yeah, so we've been playing since Battlefront 2015 launched. Before it launched, we launched the podcast. So we got to play with these maps before. And what I really want is that new content. Yeah, I'm super pumped about the new skins, but those are skins.
Yeah. I mean, they should have it to where once after a season, in the middle of a season, say mid-season 1, like on our way to season 2, they should release this content just so we can have something to wait for. This is part of the content, which is...
Yeah, this is part of the season.
So that means it's going to take away from stuff that we would normally have from another season, which is just, a port from the previous game.
Yeah. And I've seen this from Battlefront Updates, As a True, Riva Tim's, Hello Greedo, Star Wars HQ, Battlefront Captures. We all feel kind of let down by this content, especially since they hyped it up as a Han Solo season, and I figured that we would get at least some content that was reused from the past game, but not necessarily the whole first part of the season, being the only map we get is something from the last game, and the game mode that we're getting is a remix of something we got from the last game.
They just keep finding new ways to let us down. I mean, it's kind of pessimistic to say, but they do. We just need like a huge prequel drop that pleases the fans. But guess what? We got to wait for the next season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the actual Han Solo season. I'm looking forward to the solo Star Wars season that we all figured it was going to be. Like, I'm pumped for that content.
They kind of were trapped into, they're kind of forced into doing a solo season because the season was so close to the launch.
Yeah.
But I think they extended the period where they would normally would have released a season so they can hit this one up. And that's probably why we had a dry season with the seasons. They said that we're supposed to get them like every couple months. It's been like 4 to 5 months.
It's been 5 edging on 6 months.
Yeah, half a year. And they've just been fixing all their mistakes so far.
I knew from the beginning, once I saw Han Solo was coming out, we're going to get a Han Solo season. So I prepared myself for that. And I'm looking forward to the content that we get. I think the heroes, if they bring in some heroes, still we don't know if they will. If they do bring in the heroes, I think they're going to be fun to play. And the maps, I'm really looking forward to the maps. I'm finally sold on the Han Solo movie. Like, it took 2 weeks until launch to actually get me pumped about this movie, and I'm actually looking forward to it now. So I'm excited to see who they add, what maps they would add to the game.
I mean, from a spoiler sense, it's kind of good that they're releasing after the movie so we can watch it.
Yeah, but I liked how with the Last Jedi DLC that I got to play that map before I watched the movie, and I got more immersed into the movie because of that. Like, on the Battle of Crate in The Last Jedi, I felt more immersed in the movie because I had played that map in Battlefront. And the same with Scarif. Like, when Scarif launched, we got to play these heroes that we do nothing about, and I loved that. With The Force Awakens, we got that content before launch.
Yeah, it's debatable. I mean, in the sense that it comes out first, you're like, oh, no, I went there and, I explored that area.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, watching the movie and then being able to explore it and being familiar with all of the heroes and their abilities.
Yeah.
And their characteristics is cool.
But maybe that's a good thing because this is untested water for the movie. Maybe they want to release it afterwards to kind of take a wait and see approach to it. But June is going to be a while. By the time that launches, it'll be the actual first season. I'm counting this as like one of the monthly drops. That's what I'm counting this as.
Doesn't really feel like a season. It kind of feels like what they were doing with Ewok Hunt and
exactly, yeah.
Jetpack Cargo.
In my head, that's what I'm putting that as.
And the fact that they packaged it up as a single season means that this first season, which I don't even consider to be part of it, is going to take away from the content that normally would have been in the movie content of the Solo movie.
So I'm counting this as just one of the monthly drops, and then the real season, in my opinion, will start when we get that new content. That's just what it's like in my head. That's how I'm placing it.
That's how you're coping?
Yeah, that's how I'm coping. Going back to the actual community transmission after that discussion, so we're getting some changes to the main menu. Quote, in the previous community transmission, we talked about how we're going to be replacing the holographic effect you see within the menus with something else. The first part of this release will go live on May 16th, and we're looking forward to hearing your feedback on it. We do have plans to take the initial release further, and we're all going to plan this should arrive in June with the second part of the Han Solo season. So I'm looking forward to that no hologram change to the menus. I think that's going to be cool.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with the holographic animations.
I don't either.
It kind of feels like, you're kind of like in the Jedi, the Jedi archives, and you're looking at pieces of Star Wars history.
But I've seen mock-ups, and the mock-ups of the no hologram effect are, oh my gosh, they are beautiful. Like, yeah. It looks a lot like a revamped version of original Battlefront 2. We've been playing that a lot recently since Xbox released it on backwards compatibility. And from those mock-ups, it looks a lot like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that.
And it's also releasing in a tiered system. So the first part's going to launch with the beginning of the Han Solo season on May 16th. And then later, probably with the launch of the second one, they're going to refine and finish that off. The second thing I think is pretty big. You can spend skill points pre-round. So since the new progression system launched, one of the key bits of feedback we've seen has talked about the ability to spend your points in between rounds. We're pleased to confirm that this functionality will be launching once Season 2 is released.
Yeah. Also, a lot of people are having issues. I mean, not issues because we don't have really many skins. That you can't change your skins while you're waiting yet. Mm-hmm. Which I think they said something about that they're going to do it later, not in this release. But eventually, when they have more skins, you can when you're on Hoth, you can change your Leia to the Hoth skin if you were the Boosh skin, which is going to be cool.
Yeah. Battlefront 2015 did that where between matches, you could change your appearance. It wasn't between rounds because that would be a little difficult to integrate. But between matches, you could go in and customize your player skins.
And now that we have the heroes that can change skin accessibly. That's going to be interesting. And also, they could just add a mechanic that your skin automatically matches your environment, but that kind of takes away from the customization.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to be Tatooine Leia on Hoth, I have that right.
That is my right. You can't take this away from me. Oh. Another thing added are new milestones. Alongside the release of the new progression system came the arrival of a minor change that placed pop-ups within the game upon completion of a milestone. Those animations are beautiful. I love getting those things. This was met with a significant amount of positivity, but if there was one thing we heard, it was that for some of you reading this, you had already completed a lot of your milestones. So they're adding score milestones for each trooper, hero, and specials. Troopers will receive 3 tiers, while heroes and specials will have 2 new tiers. Just something to aim for as you play the game. And finally, punch it. That's all we've got for this transmission. We'll be back again in the not-so-distant future with all the information surrounding the Han Solo season content that will be released in June, including details of a brand new world. Confirmation there on a new world, that doesn't mean one map, it could be multiple, or it could just be one. Depends on which way they want to take it. Overall, what are your feelings, Sam?
Obviously not what I wanted from a season, but kind of just have to deal with it at this point.
I think it will refresh the community.
Yeah, I think we just went through the 5 stages of grief through this episode.
I like to play both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tired of like original trilogy content because this solo season's kind of considered original trilogy because it ties in with that.
It's technically a prequel, but it ties into the original trilogy more than the prequels.
Yeah, so I'm still hoping for the prequel season next time. If they don't,
I'm going to predict it now. The next season will be prequels.
Because it's worked so far. Sequel trilogy, prequel trilogy, original trilogy, and then this will be the next one will be the prequel.
Yeah, hopefully. If not, oh my gosh, if they thought the backlash around the Han Solo season was bad, they don't even know the definition of pain that the community will give them if the next season is not prequels.
And it seems like they'll have enough time between the next Star Wars movie and this one to release a season that's not tied in with the movies.
Mm-hmm, definitely. I would be surprised if, like, by the time Battlefield launches, we start getting a slower peter of content, and they prepare, if there is going to be a Battlefront 3, they prepare for that. But maybe since the launch was so rocky that they continue it up till 2019 for release of content.
Yeah, it feels like this game just started.
Yeah, it does.
And it's already been like a year. It's almost been a year.
It'll be a year in November. So.
And it feels like it just started. Because so far, they've just been fixing mistakes, issues.
It's been 7 months since the game launched, and it feels like it just launched because they've been going back and fixing things that have been broken, which I really appreciate that continued motivation to work on this game, especially since a lot of people had just written the game off. So I really appreciate that, and I hope that this game has a long life and that as more content launches, like there have been games that have launched to subpar release, and then through DLC, they still have 3 million weekly logins. The last thing, I reached out on Twitter on your thoughts for the Han Solo season, and this is what our followers on Twitter, you listeners, think about the season. Okay, Stejak at Stejak123 says the 2v2 game mode actually sounds really fun. I liked For Honor, and it kind of sounds like that. I think everyone wanted Bosch Leia, so that's great. Waiting for the solo content next month. Same here. I think that's going to be really fun. Glendon Mello, who we've actually had on the podcast, friend of the podcast, says, I like what we've seen so far, but I almost exclusively play Galactic Assault with Strike now and then, so it's not a lot for a player like me. Happy to see another great map from Battlefront 2015. Same here. I love the map. I feel disappointed that this is what we've got, though it's such a good map.
Yeah, that's what I've seen from a lot of the fans, is that heroes versus villains has kind of a niche in the fan base. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of people don't mess with that, but the people that do are passionate about it.
Yeah. So this is going to be a good refresher for that. And I've seen this so much. It's like, I love this map. This is one of my favorite maps, but this wasn't what I was expecting from the season. And then Daniel Schilling, who's a friend of the podcast, he is an awesome guy. Next week, when we talk about the new season, he has an email that I want to cover a bit. But he says, "Hey guys, I'm not blown away with the latest news. I think dropping old maps is a little cheeky. I'd just as play Battlefront 2015, which is what you were saying.
I just as kiss a Wookiee.
Like I said before, I'm not a skins fan, but I know most folks are happy with them, so I'm happy. Can't wait for the new maps." Agreed. A friend of the podcast, Cedric, has a 3-parter. Quote, "I think the problem with the reveal is that there was too much unknown. They revealed only a partial amount of the season without a roadmap or even a brief outline of the direct solo tie-in content included. I believe it was a mistake to advertise today's reveal as the season reveal because we were only given details for only a part of the content, giving effect of a barrier between the news announcements. Would it have been better to push back the initial reveal until the whole season could be outlined without any discrepancies? I think that's only a matter of opinion. For me, that eliminate the lurking unknown." Yeah, they were on the edge of a blade with this, I think, because they could have waited and then fans would just be like, what is happening? Why don't we have content? Or they could have gotten the response they did with this, and it just feels incomplete with the news and launch of the season.
Yeah, they made a few key mistakes with the season, but hopefully they learned from this one because people are voicing their opinions towards EA.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they need to learn from their mistakes.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope we see some things for EA Play and in regards to Battlefront 2, especially since the Han Solo season would be coming out around that time that EA Play starts on the 9th of June. So that could be something, like they could just announce it at EA Play, which I think would make sense. Hopefully we'll be invited to EA Play. If you wanted us to cover content like we did last year, definitely reach out to EA. Let them know that you enjoy our podcast. It's call to action. Please. We've been doing this it's coming on 3 years now. And we've been sticking to it. And I really appreciate all of the support on the podcast. Last month was insane for the numbers, for the amazing reach on amazing feedback on Twitter, through reviews. I really appreciate your support and your communication to the podcast. I love getting notifications of mentions on Twitter, emails regarding the podcast. I really enjoy all of that. And you can follow us on Twitter at SWB Podcast.
Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/the Star Wars Battlefront Podcast.
You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Battlefront Podcast. Amazing support's been going on there. If you are a supporter and would like certain content, just reach out and let me know. You can do so on Twitter or email.
battlefrontpodcast@gmail.com.
There are a couple other ways you can support the podcast. If you don't like Patreon, you can do PayPal, paypal.me/tie-dye-sheep, TYEDYESHEEP. Completely free way that helps a ton, an absolute ton, is to leave a review on iTunes. We are so close to 60, and hopefully by the end of the year we can get to 100. I would love that. I love getting those reviews and seeing the feedback and other people. It helps us in the iTunes search. When you search Star Wars Battlefront, we come higher, or just to Star Wars in general. And it also lets iTunes know that, hey, people actually enjoy this podcast, so it spreads it a little further. Next thing is RageStart.com, which is our new podcast network, which is what we're tied on. I've been working super hard on launching this. So if you are into video games in general, not just Star Wars Battlefront, you can head over there and check out the podcasts we've got there, podcasts we've got coming. Really excited. We're doing 3 update podcasts on Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox. Little 2 to 5 minute episodes every day or every weekday on what's going on in the world of Nintendo, PlayStation, or Xbox. Check that out, RageStart.com. Finally, you can listen to the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. As always,
thanks for listening,
and may the Force be with you.